On this episode, it's just me going solo and talking about our vetting process for prospects, turning them into customers, and what we use to get those customers and weigh out pros and cons of lead generation sites. So let's get started. I'm Amanda. There is no John, at least not today. And I am, or we are, the hardscape nerds. And this is weird to say myself, but why hardscapes? Because we scape so hard. Jam by myself. It's really weird one. Okay. This is super weird. It's very quiet, and I'm going to take a crack at this by myself. So, for the two of you tuning in, welcome back. If you've suffered through the first two episodes and you're back for more, I'm sorry. So, in the business, I am the one who is vetting prospects, converting them to customers, and I am I'm not very savvy with marketing or anything like that, but a lot of that rests on me to do, and just a lot of the customer interactions prior to us doing all the installs. So what we used to do is call everybody a customer. And the danger in that is, in your mind, you are already thinking of them and their job. And sometimes if your mind runs away like ours does, then you're looking at, okay, I have this job. Wow, this would be really cool. I'm going to stage stuff here and do this here. And you just start to get built up in your mind, and or at least we did. And so psychologically, you don't want to be cold about it. You want to, if you're excited about the job or the prospect of this job, you want to show your interest. You still have to treat it as though you don't have the job, because you don't until you have exchanged, if you have a signed contract or a deposit, both ideally, those together create a customer. And that was a big shift that we made in not just referring to anyone and everyone as a customer, but when leads come in, calling them a prospect, and just having that differentiation really helps to, in our minds, show that we still have some work to do before they're actually our customer. They're on the schedule. We're doing the job. So I think that's a really important key thing. Language matters, and it's no different for how you think about the people you're interacting with in this field. So I used to go out in person for every estimate. We have 3 small children, and they're school age now, but at the time we would get a sitter. And when in a lot of businesses, especially our size, John, who's out there doing all of the overseeing of the field work, doing a lot of the physical field work, that guy is going out after work all day or on weekends, and he's putting together all of these estimates. He's meeting with all of these customers. Now, when you're already in the truck and you're on the road, it's very tempting to just stay out there and keep going. If you are somebody who is not paying yourself with a paycheck yet, and I think we talked about that previously, if you're not paying yourself a wage, then you're not really accounting for your time. You're considering it's kind of like a freebie, but nobody's going to come work for you for free and volunteer their time. So you have to make sure you're being compensated as well. Estimates are something that's a little bit tricky. There are some companies that will charge for estimates, and there are other companies that will do them for free. So you have to kind of figure out, I guess, what works for you. We've done a few different things over the years. So, but up until 2020, I was going out for every estimate. It really hit us in the face because it was me going out, not John. He wasn't already out using free time, but I'm taking time away from the children, and we were paying a sitter while I go out and look at jobs. And sometimes John would come home and we'd switch off, and I'd go out and look at stuff after he came home in the evenings or weekends. But we also did have a sitter. So when we're paying a sitter and it's physically costing us out of pocket for me to run all around town, then we looked up and said, we have this large stack of bids. They all represent time. They all represent money. And we're getting hit with an actual bill from somebody that shows us that we're paying out of pocket for their time to watch the children. So the time that I'm putting in is valuable. And you don't know unless you get a little bit of information up front who's going to be a good fit and who's not. And that's going to take time too. So if you're not paying attention to whether somebody gives you keywords that let you know that maybe they're not a good fit or they may not be serious about the project, until you develop that, it can be really tempting to you're looking at everybody as a possibility. And they are possibilities, and you don't always know. There are some people that surprise me with that hire us to do a job that I didn't think they were going to go for it, and I've had other people that I thought were almost a sure thing, and they backed out and didn't see it coming. But you do have to be discerning about things like that. So when we realized how much time we were spending on estimates and how much money it was costing, and again, you can charge per estimate to go out, or you could just build out, come up with an idea of what that's going to be and build it out into your overhead. So it's spreading it out amongst everybody. I had heard from a couple of different industry people. I can't remember initially who it was, but I was watching a seminar in the winter pre-COVID 2020, and he was a pond guy, and he won't go out in person at all initially. Everything's remote, and he'll give you a ballpark price. He's done it for long enough. He just kind of knows, he gets a sense for the project. So he'll do it remotely, and then he still does charge when he goes out. If somebody's really serious about a pond, he'll charge $250 to go out and do that. I did try before to kind of do a hybrid where I did remote estimates, and if somebody insisted that I show up in person because I really had to see it, it was $50. And I didn't really see as much success with that. It definitely swayed people, but just because somebody paid for an estimate, like I'll back up. It swayed some folks to give me information up front because they wanted to save the $50. So they did the legwork and provided it, the information, and I did an estimate remotely. So it was starting to get people to go to a remote system. And then I did do a couple of estimates where people said about me coming out in person. I told them, it's free to do it remote, or I charge to come out in person. And they, I had a couple people pay it, and those jobs didn't work out anyway. So I thought about it for a while and thought, well, even if they're paying me $50 to go out right away, but it turns out that it really wasn't a good fit, I'd rather have my time back than go around town collecting money for projects that weren't going to work out. And there is some pushback with charging for estimates, because you are up against a lot of other people that aren't charging. And I had seen a local company as well that they were charging, I think, 35, and then they bumped it up to 50, and then I saw it went back down to 35. So I don't know if it wasn't working out. There's, I guess, a certain threshold maybe that people are willing to part with money or not. And again, these are estimates. This isn't like a design charge or fee. That's a whole other discussion. But for estimates, I finally decided right before March of 2020 that I was just going to do everything remotely, whether they were willing to pay the money for me to show up or not. So when people call it explain, and I already had a lot of people that would sometimes say, I'll send you some photos. I have some measurements. I've had 2-page documents where people gave me all kinds of details of what they want. So, and everything in between. So with smartphones and everything like that, I had been hearing it's not really advantageous to go out right away. Why are you just jumping in your truck and running all around town? So I finally committed to it in February of 2020. And this is what I say. Our process starts remotely. We do a remote estimate. If you just have some dimensions and some photos that you want to text me or email me, and most people are using their smartphones anyway, so they just grab a couple of pictures. Sometimes they already have pictures ready, and they can send it to several contractors if they want. I think if everyone's given the same information that way, it's going to help level the playing field, because I think what happens a lot of times when you go out in person and people are suggesting different things, the project kind of evolves. And I wonder sometimes if I'm maybe the 5th contractor that someone's called about an estimate, what has evolved in their pricing and in the scope of project from contractor 1 all the way through now 5. And if they're getting prices all over the place, 1, a lot of times people don't know their numbers, or 2, they're not even bidding the same scope of work, or 3, they just don't account for everything that they need to do the job. So it just so happened then that with COVID shutdowns, that people were now being forced to do more things remotely. So it definitely helped me to be more confident in that process and to get more buy-in from homeowners. And I think just since then, and even a little bit before then, using technology in that way to do things remotely has just become a little more commonplace, and so it's more familiar to people, and it's a little bit easier to comprehend that a company is going to make their process follow that way. So what we found out, and I didn't really keep track earlier than last year, but we have a consultant, Jim Houston, that comes in. He came in this past January, and we were trying to look at our close rates, and I'm not getting any less estimates, and I don't think I'm closing any less estimates because of doing it remotely. But there's definitely something to be said about pre-qualifying leads that way. And of all the people that call us, we found that maybe 10% of those we get. We're not a cheap company to go with, and so there's always going to be that fight with people, especially this time of year. The people that are just calling anyone and everyone they can find, the name and number they can get their hands on, and they're just serially running through a bunch of contractors trying to get the lowest price. Or I think they're looking for this unicorn of who's going to give me the cheapest priced, be the most upstanding person full of integrity, who's going to give me the best high quality installation, and do it all immediately. And you can't have all of those things all together. And there are some people that catch on to that. Sometimes trial and error, they learn the hard way, unfortunately, but some people are just never going to get that. So for some people, your price is never going to be low enough, no matter how low you go, unless you're giving things away for free. But somebody who's kind of expecting that price, something that's dirt cheap, I don't really feel like there's a lot of respect that's given. It's not. They're not really highly regarding that person. They're just kind of trying to get their own way. That's been my experience. Back to, I go off on tangents, and I don't have anyone here to reel me back in. So the remote estimate process has really, it's gone well. I've heard from some other contractors with higher end projects, bigger dollar amounts, or maybe more expansive spaces, outdoor living kind of things, that there's just a different level of service that comes along with that. And I'm starting to see where that is going to be, or is a little bit different. So when we sat down with Jim in January, we kind of talked about, what's the threshold or the cutoff, that, over like maybe a certain dollar amount, if you get out of a prospect, without asking a budget, I don't ask budgets. But if you get from them the feel for the project they're looking for, and just because they want a $50,000 outdoor living space doesn't mean that they actually are going to be, because they're asking for a high ticket item, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to go for it, because what they want, they may think is only worth $30,000 or something, and just have different expectations. So that's not to say that, if somebody, if you hear what somebody wants, that's a sure thing or anything like that. But over a certain dollar amount, I think it makes sense to go out in person, or like for a larger, more complex project. It makes sense to go out in person first and do that, and especially if it's something where there's design involved. Moving forward, my plan is to, say it's like a $50,000 threshold. Anything under that, I'll keep remote. If it's going to be over that, like an outdoor living space or something, to go out in person and measure and take notes and kind of get an estimate from there. And that's where design comes in, that if they need a design, now you can charge for your time doing that legwork, to hone in on what they're really looking for, and get all those details ironed out. So the other thing that I do, that I started using last year, so the beginning of 2022, I'd use this sporadically, and now I use it for all of my estimates. I use Loom. And Loom, if you've never seen it, you can record your screen and then have a little circle in the corner with your face and walk through estimates with homeowners, with prospects. I like this because I don't want anybody to, I want to protect my time, but I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to avoid them, that I'm not interested in their project, and that I think it's too little or something like that, or insignificant, and that I'm trying to do less work and I'm not interested in their project. So rather than typing up something that might make their eyes glaze over, because I tend to be wordy, big surprise, I put this video together, and I verbally walk through, and with illustrations, talk about the photos that they've sent me, the considerations for the job, and point out just little details that I notice in the photos. Then I get into material recommendations, so I can actually show them on the vendor websites or the manufacturer websites. Then I talk about construction. I show them cross sections of what a wall should look like, what a paver surface should look like, things that we do. And it's not like we do anything. John does make sure that things are just so, and he does go above and beyond. The specs that they have for Versalock, though, I feel like some people think that it's like bells and whistles when these are just bare minimum standards that our industry should be following. But you don't always know who's installing your project and if they're following those standards. So I like to put that out there that, hey, there are standards, here's what they are. And then I give a ballpark price. So, and if they think we're a good fit at that point, I will go out. It's still free for them to do an estimate in person. So it's a little bit of work for them. It's a little bit of work for me. The price of a free estimate is their time putting that information together and sending it to me. So there's no money, changing hands at that point, but we're paying with our time. Now, when it comes to those leads, I said it was 10% conversion rate of anyone who calls. When it comes to the in-person leads that I go to see, when we track those on our bid board, we can see that of the dollar amount of projects that I have vetted through this process, our close rate is 50%. So it's much higher. So I would love to see both of those numbers be larger. It may never happen, I don't know, for a variety of reasons, or maybe it could go up. But at least now I have that data to go by, and I can see where, if I went out to all of those estimates in person, how much time and effort would I have in it? I don't want to pass up on showing up in person. I still get that urge to go out right away sometimes. And I will make exceptions. If it's someone that we've done work for in the past, I will go out in person. So they're already a customer. So a customer gets a different level of treatment than somebody who I don't know that just called, that we have no history with. But just saving the time chasing everybody affords me more time to put into the people that are serious. And then once people sign on as a customer, once that money changes hands, the contract's in place, I'm walking them through the job. I text, email, call, I show up on site, and they're getting my attention, and they're getting details about what's actually happening on their project, if there are any questions or concerns we need to bring up. And it's not just what we're actually doing. A lot of times, especially if we're up against someone's house, we'll find things, or we're digging and there's pipes, different drains, things like that. We'll find things that other people left in bad shape that another contractor might have messed up on, and we'll bring it to their attention. And some of these things are things we can do, like and some of them are just age too. So let's say we're tearing up against somebody's house, and their foundation, there's some mortar that needs patched in, there are some openings, holes that were left. And again, that's probably more so age than lack of attention if it's an older home. So we'll go in and put the mortar in and let them know. If we're digging and there's a French drain, and maybe it's a corrugated pipe, and we're like, maybe what if we did a solid pipe instead here? Especially if there are downspouts or anything routed under a patio or driveway, we'll get that solid pipe, and we'll use that to go underneath there so it can be under the base, buried appropriately, and it can withstand the force of the plate compactor running over it. So things like that. So I'm involved from start to finish with them, and I need that energy and time to focus on the people who are customers, and I need to filter through everybody else up front so that I have more time and energy to give to the people who are partnering with us for a project. So a lot of our leads we get from, we do get repeat business. Those customers have come to us from places like Angie's List. We've do BuildZoom as another lead generation site, SEO, manufacturers, our vendors, And then we do have our customers that pass our name out to other people they know in the neighborhood, or it's not uncommon to get a number of referrals each year. It's nice to have word of mouth. That's really the best testament to who you are and what you can do for somebody. But it's not something you can solely rely on. Making relationships with vendors. We used to go to whatever block vendor was closest to the job. So we're in Pittsburgh and we work within about a 20-30 mile radius typically of the city. And we tried to, be fair to everybody. Okay, well, if we're working up north, we're going to go to this one, or south here, and things like that. And we were a small piece of business to each of those places. We didn't really have these strong relationships, strong bonds. So we switched. We found one vendor that is a good fit for us, and most places are willing to deliver materials, block at least, like hardscape materials, for several hundred miles. So they're not really limited. And once we realized that, and thought, we'll just put everything into that one vendor and forge a relationship. We have a really nice relationship with our main vendor, and they deliver all of our block and pavers. And then when it comes to aggregates, we will go to places that are a little more nearby the job, because the vendors usually don't want to travel too far when it comes to loose stone, to bulk materials like that. So by doing that, it's led to leads. We've also done a couple of displays for them. So we just get to know them more. So that's been really important. Manufacturers, we got into from talking to the vendor. John talked to our territory manager for Unilock, and we went through the vetting process to become an authorized contractor. 25% of our revenue last year came from the Unilock authorized contractor program, from leads that way. One specific job really was a quarter of our revenue. So it was really huge for us. We have SEO with our website, and website, I mean, it can be pricey. We went with clear imaging. If you go and look in the landscape, hardscape magazines, there is My Landscape site or something like that. I forget the ad. We looked at that. It's about $100 a month to host our website. They put everything together, and you can update it, every so often, and it's not an additional charge. Our account rep's great. We were doing SEO with a different company that I found, and it just wasn't it wasn't a good fit. We wanted to increase our spend, and he really wasn't getting back to us. There wasn't a lot of communication, so we said, you know what, this company that does our website, they've proven themselves, and we did SEO with them. So we got into that, and since we switched over, we've noticed a definite noticeable increase in the number of leads that we get in, just from increased visibility on the internet. We did try Facebook ads briefly, and the Google pay-per-click ads. We got a job from the Google ads, and Facebook, I don't think anything happened. Social media in general, just not even so much doing ads, but the fact that we have a presence now on Facebook and Instagram. There was a friend of John's who saw us and what we did, and they were like, hey, we're looking to do a patio. Would you be interested? So we did that 2 summers ago, or spring. And that was great. So it was just even bringing awareness to the people in our lives that didn't know what we did. And so now more people are seeing what we do and passing our name out, things like that. I did get on Nextdoor, and we used to be in Angie's List and House. We used to pay to be an advertiser on Angie's List, and it seems like their system's a little different than it used to be. If you look up Angie's List and contractors, there are a lot of stories out there. For us, what we noticed is they would give you this really big dollar amount that the advertising was worth, in according to them, and then it would be like $15,000 that they're out there for the year, and tell you all that you were going to get for it. But then if you talk to them, you get it down to like 3,000. So I don't know if there was a rhyme or reason. I think they were just kind of shooting for the moon. So to be careful with that. Right now, from what I understand, you pay a base price and then you can add for so much money certain neighborhoods to that if you want, or clusters. But if you spend more with them, then you get more leads in those areas. So you can't spend over a certain amount in one particular neighborhood, but if you have a lot more neighborhoods, they'll give you more leads. The pay per lead, or the monthly, paying monthly for advertising, if you're in maintenance or doing a lot of smaller like mulch jobs, things like that, it's probably not terrible. For us, we held on to Angie's List for a long time and thought we couldn't kind of survive without them. And then we finally cut ties with them, and we're fine. It's not taking us out of business. So the thing with that, or something like Home Advisor, like where you're paying per month or you pay per lead, without any real results out of that, there's nothing they can guarantee in terms of results. They're getting their money, they're paying their bills, and they don't necessarily care if you're actually getting anything out of it. We paid for House for a contract for a year. I don't even know if we finished the year, if we pulled out early, or I think we fulfilled the year. We got one job out of it. The return on the investment was not there. You can be on those sites for free, and I would suggest just trying to push that to the limit if you can. What I don't like about those sites too now is everybody wants everything to be all inclusive. They want you to use their website for all of your lead management, for submitting estimates. They want to keep tabs on everything. And I want to keep it all in one place myself, because that's not the only place I get leads. If somebody's emailing me from our website, if somebody's a referral from a past customer or something like that, I'm not going to enter them into this one website. I want to keep control of that. One lead generation site that I do recommend is BuildZoom, because they won't take a penny unless you actually have a job under contract. So they will send you a lead. They'll tell you the percentage they're going to take, and the percentage is going to be higher than Home Advisor or something where they're taking the money up front, because it's not guaranteed. But if you get the job and you send a copy of the executed contract to them, then they'll you pay your percentage, and it's a sure thing. So we got 2 decent sized jobs from BuildZoom, and I mean, they want you to kind of put everything through their website too, and they will call and check up on things. But I don't feel like I'm wasting money, because, well, I'm not wasting money if I don't have to pay for leads that that aren't a good fit. With Angie's List, for example, when we switched over to all hardscapes, and they're trying to send us landscaping things, they're counting the whole mass. Like, oh, there are 10,000 people in your area looking for your services. We don't offer all the services that a typical landscape company would, that offers maintenance and plants, a lot of plantings and mulch and stuff like that. So it's harder for us to justify spending that money. Yeah, the dollar amount of our projects is larger, but there were less of them coming in from there than there are people that need their grass cut or something like that. So I think that is everything that I am going to ramble about today. Thanks for sticking with me. All right, let's see if I can take us out here. Oh. I didn't turn the volume back up. I will learn technology one day. Don't worry about it. All right. James 1:5. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God that giveth to all men liberally and unabradeth not, and it shall be given him. Thank you both for listening. Be sure to share this with your in-laws, your outlaws, that friend who doesn't appreciate personal space. This sure won't bother you anymore. See ya.